but some of the guys, when they said, man, like we weren't a team anymore. When the fuck did anybody was in a pro wrestling locker room and they felt like it was a team? It was
Well, you
always
tell me. You've been in a
cliques.
few locker rooms.
It's always been cliques.
Mm.
You work together because guess what? That's what you have to do. But you're not. It's
Not in the major leagues, right? That's you've got when you've got the Hogan level, the Nash level, you're in a different, maybe ECW, something like that was an alternative to the majors, never really the mainstream, too small to really be considered a competitor. They were a shot in the arm, like punk music type thing to mainstream music, but maybe there the guys in the locker room could say, it's us against the big guys, but not when you have a Barry Bonds on the team, right?
I just think that when you have guaranteed money and that money is
Right.
signed by Turner, it's that's a different ball game.
Did you was it at least a harmonious locker room? Talking about WCW now.
There weren't fist fights. I'll just say for myself and for Scott, when we walked in that locker room, we sure as fuck weren't welcome. Not at all.
Did it change? When did it change? Did it change?
Once the once the building started to become full and they
Right.
realized that me and Scott were making every house show, then the mid card guys were like, "Oh, okay. Well, these guys they're pulling the wagon. They're not like Hulk didn't make house shows, so we were on every house show." That's when I asked Booker. I said, "Man, you want to be in the NWO?" He says, "Fuck no, man. You guys work too much."
WWE, rather, before you went over, the discontent in WWE at that time, I think, was because of the financial troubles that the company was having, which was, of course, being
But there
passed
were
down
so
to
many
you guys.
there were so many times that people walked into Vince's locker room at TV and said either they go or I go. You need to break up the clique and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, that's notorious. The stories are well
Yeah,
documented.
so that was a team,
No.
you know. But that's the whole thing. You know, when these guys talk about the demise of something, it's just like I did it. Number one, I did that video series. I did it stoned, and I did it in character. The only time I wasn't in character was the time anytime I looked at one of those screens because that was rebuttal of something else. But everything else was like I just wanted. It was. I looked at on our thing this week. People like you fucking suck, Nash, and they all you cared about. You didn't care about people losing their jobs. All you cared about was you getting your pay.
We added more jobs than ever. Added
And
more jobs. Oh,
when I look at it and I say, before Scott and I got there, like it wasn't. They were doing the what Dungeon of Doom
yeah.
deal.
Oh, it was horrendous.
Yeah. So before we got there, so if you create the Frankenstein monster, if you're Dr. Frankenstein, don't you have the right to kill it? Eric's the one that created that.
Well, Kevin
That was
created what? What did you mean? Eric created?
Eric created fucking the NWO.
Oh,
It
yeah, I
was
think I
his
meant the
angle.
dungeon.
He brought us in. He talked Hulk into being a part of it.
Before I wanted to ask you something about something you said a minute ago about in WWE trying to break up the clique and all that. The myth of the clique, right? This is endless here. It's right above us on the screen here still. You guys, the guys you accepted, PJ, Spicoli, I'm sure there's others. Kurt for a while? or was he already gone?
Oh,
Right.
Kurt, Jeff Jarrett was always welcome to travel with us.
So not guys that you hear as being the power click, but guys that could be in your circle that didn't have problems with you, you didn't have problems with them, that if we're using the word teamwork, you could say were part of your team.
I traveled like a few times, like me and Brian Adams traveled together when he was just Crush. Just we traveled together, Mach.
Why would somebody not be a part of the team? Because though the five of you are associated with that, it could have extended larger. Why couldn't everybody be on Team Click?
They can't because there was only room for five in the van.
Did it have to just be riding together? Couldn't it just be a similar sensibility about the
But
business?
I think that's what you did when you went up and down the road is you booked, and it's like
Right.
like you're booking shit for the guys in the car.
That was the clubhouse. That was the gang's clubhouse, and
Yeah.
only five could fit. I'm just coming from the stand.
Nowadays it would just be one because we'd all have our own bus.
Right.
No, we would have had a tour bus. We
Could
would
do
have
a
had
group
bunks.
text.
We
That would
would
have
have
been
had
dope.
we would have had bunks and yeah.
I'm just coming from the standpoint of did there have to be that much division in the WWE locker room and the vilification of the clique? Often talked about as a negative. This is no surprise to you. Often talked about as a negative when depends on which worker you're talking to.
Right.
But did it have to be that way?
It was because Vince made it a Shark Tank.
Someone's
That's
got to be the bad guy.
yeah, and I mean, he loved that guys were, up at each other's throats.
Now, when you go to, now of course you leave Sean behind, Hunter, and you go to WCW.
Kid got left behind.
Kid left, but he came shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
And you guys knew he would come when he was able to get out of that contract. But so did your mentality, you and Scott, did your mentalities change when you moved over? Like, we're not going to have the team.
No, we looked at it as divide and conquer. We knew that fucking Sean had the world title. We just figured we called it Click South and Click North. That's the truth.
That's the first time I heard. That's great.
Yeah, that's just the way it was. Because we looked at fucking, we were used to working 300 days a year like it was nothing, and these guys fucking as soon as that territory popped and people started having to work, those fucking country club boys they didn't know what fucking to do.
It was like the Warriors splitting up into two factions, two gangs.
And the guys that hadn't been to New York before, Lex didn't have a problem with it. Steiners didn't have a problem with it. They had all fucking been on that grind.
So that's interesting there. So work ethic now begins to come into play when you guys go down there.
It's not even ethic in the work ethic in the gym. It's workload.
The ability to handle the workload. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the difference between running basically the old Continental. You were lucky if you worked 120 days, like the first time I was there. I think like 120, 150 days would be a lot.
interesting concept. Teamwork in the locker room. Where did it exist? Did it ever exist?
Nowhere.
Right. Very good. Jim Kahn recalls last week's show and wrote in script format, Sean, so what will Shane bring to AEW? Kevin. Dot. Exactly. His commentary. Milk carton.
No, and the thing is, like, people take that as it's like saying, "Hey, man, I heard Chuck Yeager's gonna fucking pilot the Hindenburg." Great.
Doesn't matter how good an airman he might be.
That motherfucker, no matter what, you're going to hear somebody screaming all the humanity.
Shame we got to lose Chuck. Yeah.
Broke the sound barrier. Oops.
Milk carton. Somebody probably said this already, but the other Bananarama hit in America is Venus, and Obsession was by Animotion. I'll never forget the latter because it's the first music video I remember seeing. That's true. I did attribute both, I believe, to Bananarama in the mention of
That
Summer
will probably cost you the presidency.
I was going to say, give me the pen.